Hi, I'm Jules from Fastcart, and today we're at Meguiar's HQ in Daventry, and we're going to talk about removing swirl marks and light scratches from your paintwork. And pretty much we're going to go through step by step.
Exactly that. So the car's been washed, we've brought it into our tunnel of doom to really see what the paint needs working on. So we're going to evaluate the surface and then choose the right product to remove those scratches and swirls. Right,
should we get to it? Before we get into removing swirls, should we talk about how they're getting in the first place?
Understanding how they're put there. So there's a there's a mixture of things on this paint. We've got swirls, scratches, we've also got chemical staining. Obviously the main topic is swirls and scratches. That's the most common question we get at car shows, is how do I remove swirls and scratches? And they're easy enough to remove and they're very easy to put back in. Yeah. So a lot of swirls are inflicted during the washing process. So it could be like dirt and grime that's trapped between a sponge and the paint, or it could be, you know, not using the right shampoo or not great cleaning technique. So you want to make sure, you know, before washing the car, you rinse off the dirt and grime before physically doing the contact wash, because that removes anything that could slide around the paint, causing those scratches and swirls.
Yeah, so basically they're
self-inflicted.
Self-inflicted.
Yeah, there could be mechanical car wash, it could be a bad machine polish, it could be a bad polish, it could be using the wrong accessories. Some people, we've often been told that they use like the blue paper towels to dry their car off. Obviously, if that's a rough surface, it's going to chafe on the paint and cause swirls and scratches.
Brilliant. Right, so should we talk about the stages?
Yes, so we've already referenced it's been cleaned down. We've brought it into the bay and now we want to evaluate the surface. So using these lights, we can see that there's a lot of visual damage on the paint. So we can see the subsurface swirls and scratches. But if we physically touch the paint, we can hear and feel that there's above surface contaminants making the paint feel rough to the touch. Now, before we do any correction on the subsurface defects, such as swirls and scratches, we need to remove those above surface contaminants, such as road tar, tree sap, overspray, anything that's making it feel rough, because you want it to feel as good as it looks. And there's also a safety aspect to this as well. We don't want to drive that contaminant further into the paint, causing more swirls and scratches.
Yeah.
Also, we've talked about evaluating the surface, so we know that it's rough to the touch and it visually needs some correction to remove those swirls and scratches. So the next step is to choose the right product. So first of all, we're going to be using our smooth surface clay system. So have you ever clayed before?
Yeah.
You have clay before?
Did a bit on the weekend.
Sweet. So if anyone doesn't know what clay barring is, it's a process of removing above surface contaminants that are sitting on the paint safely away from the paint. So it's eroding rather than like an abrasive. So it lifts it away. It's not going to change how your paint looks, but it's an essential step to making it feel smooth before the correction machine polishing process. Step 2, we're going to address the subsurface defects with our Ultimate compound, our MT320 dual action polisher, and our foam cutting disc. Now, the reason we're using these products on the subsurface defects after the clay is because clay will not do anything for swirls and scratches. It's just going to glide straight over them because they're subsurface. That's why we need an abrasive, like our Ultimate compound and the cutting disc, to cut through that and remove those swirls and scratches and bring the paint down to a more level finish.
So Dale, we're going to use a DA polisher today. You can just do this by hand as well, but obviously the reason for using it today is...
Yeah, I mean, look at it. So yeah, Ultimate compound can be hand applied or machine applied with our dual action polisher. The reason we're going at it with a DA polisher now is we've done a test panel and we can see that we need that extra bit of bite and extra rotation to kind of cut through those swirls and scratches. Now, you can use Ultimate compound by hand on light scuffs and scratches, but for heavy paint correction like this, you're going to save yourself a lot more time and a lot less strain on your arms just by sheer, you know, moving a machine polisher around by doing it with a DA. So before we address the paint with the clay, we need to get it nice and malleable, basically soft and sticky. So work it in your fingers like this, get it nice and sticky, because the easier you get this working on the surface, the less chafing you have and the less work you've got on the other end. Yeah, so you want it to glide nice and smooth, and the stickier it gets, the easier it's going to remove that stuff from the paint.
So a bit like making a pizza base.
Exactly that, yeah.
And then there's a few things with clay, isn't it, Dale? If you drop it on the floor.
Golden rules, yeah. So whenever you know, we sell someone a clay bar, we always say cut it in half, because if you do drop it on the floor, unfortunately, it's got to go in the bin. And you've always got that spare piece on the side, obviously, and there's no kind of set amount of time that a clay bar is going to last you.
Right.
Obviously, people always say, you know, how many cars can I get out of this? It all depends on the state of the car. But we always say that a half a bar will comfortably do a car for you, half the bar. And a good way of testing if the clay is ready to be removed or thrown away is if when you're kneading and folding it after each panel, If it looks dirty and grimy after each fold, then unfortunately it's pretty much done.
Done.
If it's looking fresh still after a few folds, it's good to go.
Right, so now, question. On the clay lube, we're using quick detailer.
Yes.
Can you use any quick detailer? Or?
Within our range, we would always recommend this quick detailer because it doesn't offer anything else other than lubrication. Now, if you're using one of our premium detailers that adds gloss, beading, any kind of enhancement, but it does actually interfere with the clay and breaks it down, makes it mushy. So we'd always recommend just our kind of standard clay lube detailer. So when you're working the clay in, we want to do nice clean cross-hatch motions, so up and down, left and right. We want to avoid circles, because circles are a bit random. You could miss areas. This keeps it nice and regimented. And always be sure to use fingertip pressure only. There's no need to kind of bear down on the clay. It's just as long as it's gliding nicely, it's doing the job. So once we've done a small section of the paint, we're going to wipe it down with a towel. That's all we need to do. And also we're going to knead and fold the clay. So as you can see, you've got the contaminants on the clay. We don't want to spread that to anywhere else. So we're just going to knead and fold. So when we're finished, we're left with a smooth, clean area of clay ready for the next panel.
So we've just finished claying the whole bonnet, and now we're on to the next step, probably one of the most satisfying steps.
Exactly that. We've done a process that makes it feel fantastic, but it doesn't look any better. So we now need to use our ultimate compound, our DA polisher, and our foam cutting disc. Now, before we do anything on the paintwork, we want to prep the pad. Now, this is a little trick I've done over the years, because if you feel that, it's quite a firm, kind of harsh pad. And because we want it to kind of like stay a bit soft and absorb more product and get more longevity out of our passes, because we want to work it a bit longer, what I like to do is beat up the pad. So this softens the pad, opens up the pores, which means it will kind of work a bit longer for you without drying out.
Right, top tip.
So if you feel that now, it should feel a bit softer.
Oh, yeah.
We're not taking the cutting ability out of it, which just means that we can use it for a bit longer. So, a few golden rules before taking on any kind of machine polishing. Rule number one, always put the power cable over your shoulders. This way, when you're working on an area like this, the cable's not loose and rubbing on paint, which is what we don't want. The rule that normally gets people in a day in the bay, that catches them off guard, is that don't start and stop the machine unless it's on the panel, because we don't want to fling product everywhere. So people turn it off, lift it off, it's going to sling product all over the place, and we don't want to spend more time cleaning up after ourselves. Third rule, and probably most important, only use the weight of the machine itself. There's no need to bear down on the machine. Let it do the work for you, just nice and relaxed, and don't hold on as if you're like on a roller coaster. You don't want white knuckles by the end of the detail because your arms are just going to be tired. So nice and chilled, relax, let the machine do it, and it'll be done in no time.
So now we're using your ultimate compound.
Yes.
What's the difference between this and a polish? Because obviously a polish is an abrasive as well.
Exactly. So we talked about common questions we get at shows and events. One of them is, how do I remove swirls? The other one is, what's your best polish? Now, our first question is, what are you looking to achieve? Yeah. So when Meguiar's talks about polish, we talk about enhancing gloss. So feeding into the paint, giving that real darkness and wet look. When we talk about compound, that's when we talk about defect removal. So some people say, I use your polish, but it didn't remove any swirls. Well, chances are it's not going to. It could remove light white marks and light swirls, but for the heavy swirls and scratches and paint correction, we always recommend our ultimate compound. So it's a kind of revive, refine, protect. So revive is your compound, refine is your polish, and then protect is your wax. So we're taking our ultimate compound. So it's not only a mechanical cleaner, removing swirls and scratches, it's a chemical cleaner as well. So for stains as well, there is some staining on this, and for tied colors, it's going to revive, obviously.
And you don't want to saturate this, you're probably going to do 4 dots?
Yeah, I like a cheeky 5-dot mixture. I go against the norm at every possible point. So small amounts like this. And the key is to not give yourself too much to do. We want to work smaller areas, which is going to be more concentrated. If you try and spread out and do the whole panel, there's only small areas that are going to get your attention. Right. Like when you saw here, I did a small kind of test area. I'll probably break this bonnet down into like 4 or 5 sections maybe, just because I really want to work it and concentrate and make sure I get the most out of the product and the pad. So we're all clued up on you choosing the right product for the right situation. We're now going to use the proper technique. So I've applied the product to the pad. I'm going to stamp out my work area first, like this. I'm going to make sure my plug's turned on. Tom likes to turn it off. I'm going to set it to the slowest speed on the machine to spread, because I want an even surface of product so everywhere gets an equal share. like that. And then you can see here we have swirl and defect removal 4.8 to 5.8. So I'm going to go in the middle of 4.8 and 5.8, which is a good average kind of swirl removal speed for me. And I'm going to do 2 or 3 passes, again utilising the crosshatch motion we used on the clay barring. I'm going to go up and down, left and right, and that's it. I'm going to try and move at about 1 inch per second. So the slower you go, the quicker this gets done, because we're allowing the pad to work the surface. If we go too fast, it's not going to do anything.
Right.
So a little top tip, if you're using compound or polish, unlike a wax, you do not let these dry on the surface. You just don't gain anything. So once you've worked to the surface, take your clean microfiber towel and remove.
Wow, well, you can quite clearly see the difference.
Yes.
And the polishing, what, took you, what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Yeah, so the actual compounding itself with the machine, a few minutes, just using like no pressure, the right speed, again, choosing the right product, right technique. We have done half a job, so I am going to do the rest of the bonnet because I can't leave it just that done. And yeah.
And then after this, you would then apply your wax, wouldn't you?
Exactly that. You could use something like our 3-in-1 wax, which is great for after compounding because it's going to refine after compounding but also protect. Or if you want to go for the full hog, you can use our ultimate polish to really enhance that gloss and refine, and then our ultimate wax for long-lasting protection.
So there you have it. That's how you remove swirl marks, and you can do it on by yourself at home with the right products. You know, what a satisfying job to do.
Exactly that.
Now, if you can crack on with that half, because I can't drive home like that.
Exactly.
Thank you.